Well, we're here at Breakforth in Edmonton, Alberta, and I'm absolutely thrilled to be with Louie Giglio. And Louie is a writer, a pastor. He and his wife Shelley have headed the global passion movement over the last number of years, 20 years now, actually. And he's also become a friend, and it's really good to have you here, Louie. Welcome.
Always great to be in Canada.
Yeah, welcome back to Huntley as well. We're really glad to have you. So one of the things that I think is really remarkable about what God is doing in your life is the fact that you get to interact with so many young adults, which seems so mysterious to so many people, right? Particularly you get into your 40s or 50s, it's like, wow, I don't think I understand teenagers or college students or 20-somethings. But you just hosted how many at the Georgia Dome?
55,000 18 to 25-year-olds were at the conference this year.
That's incredible, and that's the Passion Conference that you've led for over 20 years. So what, a lot of adults really struggle to connect with 18 to 25-year-olds. What are some connection points that kind of work? And this could be like for families, right, who are like, yeah, I got children in that age, or maybe you're an entrepreneur or an employer who's got employees in that age, and you're like, I feel like we're not really speaking to each other. What are some connection points for you?
Well, I think the first part of it for any of us is intentionality. If you want to connect to what they call the millennial generation, or before that it was Gen X, or before that it was someone else, and it's going to be something else in just a few years now. But if you want to connect with that 18 to 25-year-old generation, you have to want to. I think that's the main thing. And the older we get in life, I mean, obviously I'm a few decades above that, I think we get insulated into our path, our lane, and we only know how to do things a certain way. And we only know how to look at the world a certain way, and we have a low tolerance for people who don't look at the world the way we look at it, or ride in the lane that we ride in. And so all of a sudden here comes a new generation, and they think differently, they act differently, they're into different kinds of things, and you have to really decide at that point, do I want to stay connected to this generation? And I'm a pastor, so a pastor, a business leader, entrepreneur has got the same wiring really, which is I want to create a future. I don't want to just hold down an 8 to 5.
Right.
So I want a church to be around 20 years from now. I don't want to be that church that has more people in the cemetery than has in the seats.
Yeah.
And so if you want to have a church 25 years from now, you got to start looking at the people that are 15, 14, 12, 13, 20 and build a church for them. And as an employer, same story. I have a lot of people who work in our organization, and a lot of them are under 30.
Yep.
And so you have to intend to understand them, to reach out to them, and to serve them. And if you want to do it, you can do it. That's the key.
Yeah. So what are some natural points of disconnection? Like if in your 40s or 50s or beyond that, where would be some flash points that you see that you've even had to work through, being able to influence that many young adults? What are some natural disconnection points that you've turned into connection points?
Yeah, well, I think the natural disconnection points, and I want to be really careful because people who broad stroke characterize millennials is a real disservice to 18 to 25-year-olds or 20-somethings, because you could be here in Edmonton or go to Wyoming or to Atlanta, New York City, Brooklyn, wherever, and you find a 23-year-old, they could all be different.
Yep.
But there are some common traits, and they grew up in a different world. I did not grow up in a world with a cell phone, with any kind of mobile phone. I remember when I got my first bag phone, for crying out loud.
Oh yeah, I remember
battery
those.
weighed 4 pounds, and you can make a call for $9 to a friend. But I didn't grow up with a personal computer or any computing, actually. And kids today have a different way of approaching the world. They're not good on intuition, face-to-face relationship. Their emotive recognition skills, we know, are low. Their person-to-person communication skills are low, because they've grown up in a virtual environment where everything they see is on a screen, and they're working through a flat surface medium to communicate with people. They had to create emojis so that millennials could have emotions, because it's hard to have an emotion when you're not actually talking face to face with someone. So when you're an employer, you have to retrain people actually how to enter into personal long-term relationships, communication, because the world still is a person-to-person world, even though we make phone calls, we text, we email, what have you. But I think the underlying things they say about this generation, they're not committed, they're flighty, they're entitled, they want to say in everything. Well, we all want all those things, honestly.
Yeah.
It's just we didn't really know we could be that way when I was growing up. We were told to do what we were told to do.
And so we
for
did
the
it.
most part, we did it. But now people walk into an organization, they say, I want to talk to the boss. And you're like, yeah, you don't get to talk to the boss. You can't even
Right.
talk to the guy who's under the boss. You can't even talk to the guy that's under the boss. You talk to these three people. Oh, I'm not working here because I want to be able to have direct communication with the people running the show. So I think the boss has to learn how to lean towards a new generation, make
Yeah.
himself available, and you've got to teach and train people honor and respect, which are the fabric of every great country, every great society, every great business, every great church. And so you work it from both sides, and hopefully at the end of the day, everybody wins.
Now, how have you navigated some of that? Like, what are some of the things you've done? Because clearly you've got a connection point. And the other thing is, young adults follow you. They follow the movement. They come to your church and so on. So where are you connecting? Like, how do you teach them that stuff? And where do you find the commonalities?
Yeah, I think you model it to them. I mean, the way Passion works, and people say, why are all these 18 to 25-year-olds still coming to Passion? I don't think 55,000 of them showed up hardly anywhere around a spiritual purpose this year in the world. I mean, that's a very rare thing.
Yeah. You mean the people who did for you
spiritual
did,
event
but
for 55,000 18 to 25-year-olds in the room. Now, they would come to a concert maybe or something else, but not even that demographic. So I think the thing they love about Passion, Carrie, is we are who we are.
yeah.
And we try to drop all the pretense. We don't give them short answers like, because I said so, because that's what I told you, because that's the way you're going to do it. We try to serve them, give to them, honor them, and in the process hope that they learn to serve, give, and honor. So you model with a millennial what you want from a millennial. You don't tell a millennial what you want them to do. You model for them who you want them to become. And I think that's the tricky part for those of us who are older demographic, because we're like, I want you to do it this way, but I'm going to do it this way. I want you to walk it out like this, but I'm going to walk it out like that. And I think that there's something about them. When I say them, that sounds very general, but there's something about younger 20-somethings that they've been very disappointed by the system. Family system, the system of life, the political system, you name it. And the payoff hasn't been there. There hasn't been like a pot of gold at the end of any rainbow.
Yeah.
And so they're suspect of a lot of people, and they're cynical about anything that sounds too easy, too good to be true. And so you got to talk to them in real language. And as a pastor, I don't try to impress them. I just try to serve them and point them to someone different than me.
Yeah.
Namely, to point them to the God who loves them and created them, and to put them in touch with Him more than wanting them to do something for me.
And there is a spiritual hunger there. I think a lot of people could assume, well, I don't think most young people really care about God, or they have their own views. What are you discovering in that?
Well, nothing could be farther from the truth. Spiritualism is on an all-time high in all demographics. People are seeking spiritual meaning everywhere. It could be in their yoga class, or it could be that they're reading a book on meditation that they got at the library, or they're talking with a friend over, philosophical, spiritual issues. But the bedrock issues of purpose and meaning are still woven into the heart of humanity. And young people want to know, because they see life as a crapshoot, really, and they're like, can my life count? Can I do something of meaning? I know I'm not going to make more than mom and dad did, because on the economic scale right now, it doesn't look like a millennial is going to have as good a paying job as their parent had. That's the first generation that's facing that.
Yeah.
So like, I'm not going to make as much bank as mom and dad. I don't know if I'll have all the things mom and dad had. That's why I'm still living at home right now, because I want to hang on to that as long as I can. So what am I going to do? How is my life going to matter? How's my life going to count? These are spiritual, philosophical questions about meaning. And I think that it's a great time to be having those kind of conversations with people, and about the existence of a God who may have created this whole thing.
Yeah.
And who may have put us all on earth for a greater purpose than just getting a bigger car or a greater job or putting more money in the bank.
What gives you the greatest joy about working with young adults? I mean, you've been doing this for decades now. What keeps you coming back year after year, and what makes you smile the deepest?
Yeah, two things. One, this is our livelihood. This is where the future is. And so to see, I could name 2 or 3 people who 20 years ago were sitting in a Passion Conference as a 20-year-old, and now they are some of the greatest leaders in our country who are shaping the nation, and all of it sparked in that moment at a Passion Conference. That's what keeps me coming back.
Yeah.
But the second thing that keeps me coming back is I feel like it does something for me. You asked the question, how do we stay connected to young people? Don't try to convince them that you're relevant, A.
Yeah.
Don't do that. Right. Don't ever use the word relevant, B. And don't even attempt that. They know you're not relevant to them, and you're not old. You're old, and you're this and that and the other.
Yeah, they figured out you're not 28.
They know that already. And so don't drop 21 Pilots in a conversation like, hey, what's up? Yeah, I was just listening to 21 Pilots on my way to work today, kids. They're like, no, you weren't. And if you were, what song were you listening to? But if you really were listening to 21 Pilots on the way to work, and you really did like 21 Pilots, and you did know the two guys' story, and you knew about where they came from, and you knew how to weave that slowly but surely, and you genuinely wanted to know, what is Instagram?
Right.
What is an Insta story? How do you put an Insta vid on your feed? Then people are going to go, I didn't even know you knew what that was.
Right.
And there are ways that we can lean in without trying to be relevant, that really will allow us to have a platform, have things to talk about, have ways of understanding where people are, where they live, what their lives are about.
Louie, thanks so much. I've been with Louie Giglio, who is the founder of the Passion Movement and also the founding and teaching pastor at Passion City Church in Atlanta. Hey, you may have somebody that you think you want to connect with, and we would love to be part of your circle. And so there's some prayer lines that we would love for you to call. There are people there literally 24 hours a day. So whenever you're watching this, whatever time zone, if you're finding this online, yep, there's somebody there who's going to pick up the phone. And especially if you're a young adult, we'd love to connect with you. And thanks so much for being with us today.